Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, and before we get started with today's video, I just do want to give people an update about what's been going on with me. Some of you may or may not have seen the announcements that I put out on Discord and on YouTube and the community page about my family life and how things are going right now with me. So, as of the recording of this video, my grandfather is still alive. However, I think that he is nearing that sort of end of life sort of stage. So, that's kind of some of the reasons why my videos have not been released at the regular time. Normally, I release videos like in the morning, Pacific time anyways, and right now I'm not. So it's just because the time that I'm able to get to videos is a little bit different than they were. I still, hope to get as many as I can out, but if there is a gap or a day missing or something, that's why, I'm just not, also my family's around right now as well, so my ability to get recording in is not as good at the right time as it would normally. So hopefully you all understand about that. But in today's video, I do want to talk about how to succeed in Marvel Strike Force, typically from a free-to-play manner. And I'm talking about that from my perspective, but how I think that you really need to start choose, if you haven't already, you need to kind of choose a game mode. We have a variety of different game modes in Marvel Strike Force, but we only have so many resources to go around. There's only so much gold in particular to go around, and you need quite a bit now to boost characters up to a reasonable level to stay competitive in that game mode, whether that be a level 85, 90, or even 95 in some cases, and there's just not that much gold. So what we're going to be doing in today's video is we're going to be taking a look at my roster from last 6 to 9 months sort of recency, what kind of characters I've built, and for those of you who have followed my channel for a while, you kind of do know that I do put more priority into raid characters, and so we're going to take a look at that, but also some of my other characters that have come out that I haven't spent a lot of resources in, and where that's brought me to today. So if you're ready to go, everybody, then let's boil this down. And I want to start here, and so this is my character spreadsheet. Now, some of you may, this should say 2023 now. Some of you guys may have seen this before. Oh, let's scroll back down. And I want to kind of take a look at the character releases. And we're going to kind of use that as an example. And we're going to go back through the history of Marvel Strike Force a little bit and take a look at some of the teams that I have built up. And what I said earlier on in the intro was that, we get... So I used to know this for a fact before. I haven't done an update on this, but you would get approximately 2.5 to 3 characters worth of gold per month. Now, that was at level 90. With level 95, that's not necessarily the case anymore. But, you would basically be able to fully upgrade 2.5 to 3 characters every single month. Now, that was before buying Gear 17 pieces out of the supply store, and that's a separate conversation because that can take up a lot of gold. But if you hypothetically were not spending your gold on much and you were only focusing on characters, you would have about 2.5 to 3 characters worth of fully maxable characters per month. But there's more than that coming out, right? We have now typically about 1 per week. And so that's about 4 a month. That's not even counting any reworks. So this can be troubling to be able to keep up with the game meta when there's so many characters coming out. And so that's why you really need to narrow the focus on what you're going to be working on. For me, my number one so Arena, you should be working on, right? Power cores are very important. But those are only like a couple of characters, like 5 characters, maybe 6 max. So those don't get changed over too frequently. My main priority is raids, and that's because that content comes every single day. For Alliance War and for Cosmic Crucible, it's 3 times a week. And while some of them have various degrees of rewards that you get as a result of it, I think for me personally, raids is number 1, Crucible is number 2, and War is number 3. And we're going to take a look at some of the characters that I've upgraded, the teams that I've upgraded, and where I've left them at, and how far I've taken them, and why. So, to start with Invaders, I've actually just been pushing them pretty high. With the exception of Iron Fist, who isn't unlocked yet because I'm not spending, right? But otherwise, my Invaders are quite powerful at this point. And some might actually wonder why I have done it that high. All of my characters are gear tier 16. They're all at 90. Actually, Nick Fury's 94. Why is Nick Fury 94? Because his summons are amazing, and he is my highest character with yellow stars. And If they have good yellow stars, that means that they're going to benefit from the character levels a lot more. Their growth, their stat growths are going to be a lot better than, say, Cap with 3 stars or 2 stars. Actually, I don't know where I got those shards from, but I ended up getting that. I think I used my Ultra Cores on that 10 shard offer for Cap just to get me to that 3-star level to bump its stats up. But why are they this high? Because you don't need them this high, at least for Doom Raid, to get through there. And the reason is because I like being able to eventually sim. And so you typically would need to raise your characters a little bit higher to compensate for the simming so you don't screw up, essentially. Like I could manual play Doom Raid skill at like level 80, with that gear tier 14, 15. But if I want to sim, I want to kind of be able to take them up as high as I need to for that. And I've been, experimenting with that. And I'll do the same with Iron Fist when I get them unlocked. It would probably level 90 to start anyways. And so that's been something I've done for this team. Now let's take a look back. So Masters of Evil. This is a Cosmic Crucible team. I've put in a decent amount of resources into Masters of Evil, not as much in certain characters, but a lot of that actually has to do with star levels. So Masters of Evil, they are gear tier 16. I slightly regret this on Observing Man, and I don't have that yet on Moonstone. Part of the reason why I have them this high, so Kang's amazing. He's an outlier, so everyone should upgrade Kang. That's really, and Ultron I had a G15 anyways because of my prior usage in the past. He was, I believe, level 80 G15, so I had him quite built up already, and there wasn't much more to go there. But for the other ones, the low star levels is what kept me from kind of building them up a little bit more. Absorbing Man, I was really disappointed with, and I wish I could take some of this resources back. I found Absorbing Man not very good. I thought he was the worst character of this team, in my opinion. And Moonstone can pretty much do what she needs to do where she's at right now. So I'm more than beating teams in Cosmic Crucible with this amount of power, and that's not a big problem for me. Like for the level that I'm playing at Diamond 2, it's not a problem for me, and so I can easily do it this way. But I did this because of the threat of the legendary unlock. Now we know that for Nova, it's more of a Scourge style, and it's not the old style that maybe it might have been where you needed them at 5-star. So that's why I kind of invested in this a little bit more. But you can get away with, playing with Masters of Evil at a lower tier level because they're just so powerful, especially if you have a decent Kang, that they just kind of wipe the field, and they can up punch a lot in Cosmic Crucible. Now, going back before that, we had Rebirth. So again, another raid team, and before that we had Death Seed. So you probably kind of know where this is going, and you're probably wondering, Boilon, where did you have this reason? Where did you have the amount of gold? So I did have to, that's why Moonstone's only 76, because I did have to chop her off somewhere if I wanted to have gold for some of the upcoming stuff that was around the bend. So Rebirth is not quite as heavily geared out as my Invaders team, but that's because I've been able to find that I can sim them actually a little bit better than I can for Invaders because of the enemies that are in the skill raid. So for Rebirth, I have them mostly at 85. They're not 90 like my Invaders are. I think that when the Incursion raid comes out, I'll eventually have to come back to this and put in an extra, 3 million gold that I need to get to 90. So I'll have to find room for that. Yeah, 2.7 million per character, so that's another 10.8 million gold to get the 4 of them up to 90 and gear 16. That's on the agenda, and so that's probably why my Invaders are a little bit higher up now. It's because I haven't taken Rebirth up to 90, but raid teams are very important to me. The reason why Cap is 90 G16 is because I felt that because of his star levels, the yellow and the reds, that was the best for me in terms of benefit that the wider team would have got. Back then, I actually have decent star levels on my Rebirth team now. They've actually done a decent job at being able to supply additional shards to these characters. So they're better now than they were before in terms of the star levels. I didn't quite have that much before. And going back to Death Seed, well, Death Seed was funny, right? Because they did have 2 characters that were reworked. So this made it slightly easier for me. My Magneto and Psylocke were okay. They were like gear tier 14 level before, so my investment was not a full amount of gold from level 1. And so I really only had to invest into 3 characters. And, I had to sacrifice somewhere. And you're going to start to see that when we go further back, because I didn't touch Wakandans. I didn't touch Wakandans or War Dogs, and so I think that's where I was able to recoup some of the resources that are kind of required for this. So if we go back and just take a look at Wakandans more broadly, other than Shuri, you'll see like they've barely even touched. Shuri was upgraded for Dark Dimension 5 way back when, but other than that, I think I upgraded Black Panther to 14. That was for the Nakia campaign event, because we were forced to use some of these characters for that. Other than that, they've barely been touched. You're seeing a lot of Gear Tier 12, Gear Tier 13, which does not cost much at all. And it's not until you go up past 75 that the gold really starts to crunch you. And so that's the reason why I've been able to recoup resources from that. Even though that was quite a long time ago now, that has kind of allowed me to then put it towards the characters that I, feel that is important to this game. And what you're going to have to do as well. Going back a little bit further, I'm not going to go through every single character, but, I did not upgrade Spider-Man Noir very much. I think he's at Gear Tier 14, and that's about it. Mr. Negative, so I went through a period where I just said fuck it, and I upgraded, Underworld. Some of you may remember that I did an Abomination Orb opening way back when, and I said for every bad drop, I would put 1 level into Nobu. So I took Nobu to level 90, and as a result, I was like, at this point, because I had Taskmaster built up too, and I was like, at this point, I might as well just do the team. Now, I did not fully upgrade Green Goblin, so most of my resources went into Taskmaster, Mr. Negative, and that shameful level 90 Nobu. And I didn't really upgrade too many other characters. But typically I wouldn't do that. I'm a very strong proponent of saying no to war. Say no to war unless there's a legendary character attached to it. So Omega Red and of the past, of course, and Red Hulk for the Gamma team, which I did. And so it's interesting that I have been able to keep up as well as I have. So if you take a look, I've actually built most of these characters somehow. And I think a lot of what helped me was skipping certain ones. So I did not fully upgrade the Gamma team past 85. I currently have them at Gear Tier 16. I am not taking them to Gear Tier 17. That's another conversation for a different video about a big apocalypse, which I don't plan to do myself. And Spider-Man Noir was broadly skipped. And Wakandans, like this full patch, was like me able to save my money for the most part, except until Dark Beast when he came out. So we did have the rework, I think, to Death Seed in the 6.5. I think Magneto and Psylocke were reworked in this patch early on, and I was slowly building them during this patch in preparation for 6.6, which was the winter patch for Nemesis and Archangel and all that to build the Death Seed together. So I was able to skip this and spend like a month basically not doing anything and then saving that for Death Seed. And I think going forward, looking at what we have released right now, I'm almost certain that we're due up for a war team. And that would be your best opportunity to skip that team. And I know that some people are going to say, Boilon, nothing's skippable. But I'm telling you that there is. And whether that's a rework team or whether that's a war team, there are skippable characters. For me, because raids are number 1, I may skip Firestar. And even though I do have Cloak, Dagger, and Deathpool leveled up and geared, I don't prioritize Crucible more than I prioritize raids. And since incursion raids are going to be coming out right after Firestar releases, or even before Firestar releases, because that's just how patches go sometimes, that I want to make sure that my raid teams are ready to go for when the incursion raids release next month. And so, again, to reiterate, raids, Crucible, war. There's not enough gold in the game to spread out to more than 1 or 1.5. As you guys saw, I did build Masters of Evil, so I'm going to say 1.5 game modes, which means that you can put a little bit of effort. You can do full effort into raids, do a little bit of effort into Crucible, and then just say no to war, and that's where you're going to recoup your resources, because you need to skip a couple of characters every now and then. Whether it's a rework team or not, you need to really think about that, because there were some reworks that happened. Reworks do benefit veteran players a little bit more, like myself, so I did have Captain America OG up a little bit for Rebirth, and then Nick Fury a little bit for Invader, so I didn't have to put in as much gold for that extra character. But for people who are not like myself, we'll have to put that gold in there, and you might not be doing as well as I am in gold because you had to do that for Ultron for Masters of Evil. So that's a good example. We had Nick Fury this patch, Ultron last patch, there was Cap, OG Cap from the patch before, Magneto, Psylocke. So if you had no investment in any of these characters, then you're not going to be doing as well in gold, and you'll be feeling that crunch. Right, and so that's why I'm mentioning this, because you need to make sure that you're focusing on 1 or 1.5 game modes. There's not enough for 3. Now, if war happens to be your favorite game mode, I don't think it's worth it personally, but hey, if you have a lot of fun and that's what keeps you playing Marvel Strike Force, then go for it. But the point of this video was that there's not enough resources to go around, and you're going to want to focus. You know, if Cosmic Crucible is your favorite game mode and you do better in that than you do on raids with your alliance, then focus that. You know, if that's what gives fun to you. Just know that there's not going to be enough gold, specifically gold, maybe training materials as well, but specifically gold to go around for that many characters. You know, gear, there might be, because we're seeing a lot more influx of gold, you know, as time goes, gear, there's more influx of gear as time goes on, but gold is being crunched more than it's ever been before. We're actually losing gold, from what I understand, is that they're taking gold. I'm so afraid of like claiming things, but I was told that they give us less gold now than we did before. I thought we used to get like 1 million or something at the end. I don't remember. Maybe someone can let me know in the comments down below. But I think we're, for the most part, minus gold per month than we used to be. And so that means we're being crunched. And not only that, but the level cap has gone up to 95, which means the amount of gold that you need to put in per character is a significant amount more. So I don't know, everyone, but that's how I've been doing, and my roster's relatively good. And that's because I have, decided which characters are skippable to me. Now, I'm going to make all of you aware of that as time goes on and teams come out, and I'm like, that's not a good idea. I'll probably point that out, especially if it's a war team, just, to reiterate some of the stuff in this video for those of people who didn't watch it and for those who just want to make sure to keep ahead, because this is going to be the best way to keep ahead free to play. If you're a spender, you probably could do 2 full game modes. Maybe 2.5. But as someone who doesn't spend like myself, I need to be very careful about where my resources go. And that's why I stick to raids. Arena's a given, but raids is my primary focus, and that's where most of my resources go. And the reason why I bumped them up a little bit, just to recap, why I bumped them up a little bit more than you actually need, it's because of simming. So if I can get away with simming, that also shaves off my daily playtime, for better or for worse. So that's the end of this video, everyone. Hope it was helpful. We'll be having an event video coming up pretty shortly for some of the events that are going live on Thursday or Friday, I forget now, and I'll see you in the next video. So until then, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you then. Boilon signing out.